What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode. We are back on YouTube. As you guys know, I am running a new endeavor, my shop, House of Gear, at Sarit Center Mall in Nairobi, the ultimate outdoor overland shop, the best place, the destination to get all your camp stuff, power packs, off-grid solutions, tents from Nortent, ARB items, Rhino Rack, and so much more. So make sure you check out House of Gear. I've been working super hard on that, and it's been taking a lot of my time. So those of you who have supported, I appreciate it. But obviously, first things first is the beautiful little Mercedes Benz key. And that goes right here. Obviously, in this generation of E-Class, they'd kept the key right here on the left-hand side, which at first was very confusing to me, but now it's almost become perfectly normal to me. Almost weird to see the key on the right-hand side like how Toyotas do. And modern Mercedes-Benz have also moved, I think, to the right-hand side. But I loved these left-hand side ones. Right there, turn ignition, get the systems running. Alright, so my Mercedes W124. Honestly, guys, this was always kind of a dream. I did have a C-Class. I had a W202. You know, for those of you who are interested in a little talkative episode, I think this is going to be one of those, because just want to share about the Benz and my thoughts on it. So I had a C-Class. I had the W202, which is the C-Class, and I had about a 1996 version, and that was my introduction to Mercedes-Benz. I got that you know, it was passed over to me when I was 16 or 17 years old, and I learned to drive on a manual Mercedes-Benz. I learned to drive on a W202 Mercedes-Benz, and I absolutely loved that vehicle. Shifting gears, sped, so responsive, lightweight vehicle, really moves. You know, the C-Class, the W202, it really moves, guys. So I fell in love with that vehicle. I fell in love with stick shift, with manual gearboxes. I really believe that, you know, driving a manual is a totally different experience. It's so engaging. You are, you know, fully in control of the vehicle, fully in control of the driveline, fully in control of shifting, moving power. It's fantastic. And I really fell in love with the W202. And from there, I then am building up and started falling in love with the vehicles that came after the 202. And what came after the 202? The W124. In fact, the 202 was the modern Benz. You know, before the W202 C-Class came the 190, right? And that was the C-Class of the generation. And then the W202 became officially known as a C-Class. But I had never gotten into an E-Class. So I always felt that, you know, that feeling of what would an E-Class feel like? What are the differences? How does an E-Class drive versus a C-Class? And it was always a dream. Now, of course, the modern Benzes, the modern E-Classes are just stunning, right? They're beautiful. The design even, I think, are just stunning. I don't particularly like the super modern ones where they have screens in the whole interior, but I really still believe that Mercedes-Benz are just simply the best in design. Fantastic looking vehicles. So I always dreamt, what would the E-Class feel like? And so, you know, I always hopped around on the listings. I'm someone who always checks what kind of cars are popping up, what kind of cars are for sale, and you know, that's the way you can really pick up you know, really special units, really special vehicles. So I always checked out on those things, and I always tried to see what was on sale and what would come up. Now, there were several W124s that I have looked at, and there were several W140s that I've looked at. For those of you who don't know, the W140, another unbelievable Benz that had really captured my eye. That is the S-Class of this generation. But you know, with the W1, and I saw some really clean ones, and actually today I regret not pulling the trigger on some of those fantastically clean W140s that I had seen. But I did see some W124s, and they were stunning, some automatics as well. But I did find, with this age of vehicle, the automatic gearboxes were kind of hanging. They would delay shifting, and they were a bit too lazy for my liking. You know, I missed and craved that manual gearbox and that experience and that responsiveness that I'd gotten in my W202. You know, I wanted that kind of responsiveness. So I saw a bunch of W124s, and you know, none of them hit my eye. A year passed, 2 years passed, and so anytime a listing would come up and something would look good, I would check it out. But of course, based on finances at the time and how much I was able to go for that vehicle, I either, you know, kind of just skipped on it or said I'll just go on and get the next one, and then turn up, you know, this beautiful unit, you know, in 2024, where I just found, like, I really like it. I really like the condition, and I want to pull the trigger on this vehicle. I think it's a gorgeous vehicle, and once I drove the W124, I really understood what the attraction to W124 was. So let's talk about what the attraction is to this vehicle. Why is it so desirable even in 2025, being a 30-year-old vehicle? Well, the W124 came out at a time when Mercedes Benz had to prove to the market that, you know, they were the best. They create the best engineered vehicles in the market. So the W124, when released, had a lot of revolutionary things, which is what defined the modern car. You guys have to remember that before the W124 you know, came along, cars looked quite a bit different. The E-Class before the W124 was the W123. That was now much more of the 70s and 80s eras, with the thick chrome metal everywhere, you know, thick bumper pieces, thick you know, hoods, doors, and that kind of signified the last era when the W124 came out, because the W124 introduced what I would like to say is the modern Mercedes. The fact that you have this laid-back interior, nice amenities, wood grain, you know, very much a modern sedan, and very much what defined the modern sedan even up to today. This was the vehicle, you know. So it featured, this one has rear-wheel drive. It featured a super complex 5-link rear suspension, which at the time was very unique, but now pretty much defines all vehicles. So it introduced you know, very much a new age in smoothness and road handleability for a Mercedes Benz. And this car, even today, it drives so well, guys. I can't actually understate how well this car drives. You know, I'm on a road right now where, even though it's a highway, it's got these dings and dents, and if you're in a Land Cruiser on this road, you know this road is bumpy because you can feel yourself being moved around, because it has that solid axle, and so, you know, you can feel yourself being moved around. And when I get into this Mercedes Benz of mine, and then I stop being thrown around, it really makes it hard to drive any other vehicle. This car really does actually handle very different to most vehicles, and it's just a pleasure to drive. Let alone even having not gotten into how perfect this manual gearbox is and how much I love it. Now, the manual gearbox is a 5-speed gearbox, which is actually fantastic, instead of a 4-speed. I have got 5-speed, and you know, the gear ratios are quite long, so each gear can really pick up a bunch of speed. You know, this car in second gear right now, I'm taking off in second gear on a bump, and I'm just going to accelerate. I can just be in second gear, still in second gear, and we've gone from, you know, 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. So long gear ratios, and that's what really serves as a Mercedes Benz. You know, the BMW guys will say that's exactly what they don't like. They don't want the car to be doing that, to having these long gear ratios and shifting like that. You know, they want to just shift quickly and have rev it out, shift, rev it out, shift. That's definitely not what the W124 does. The W124 gives you that laid back feel, and you really feel like you're driving a Mercedes Benz. You know, premium, luxurious vehicle, comfortable, and holds the road just really, really well. Holds the road really, really well. So there's something that really draws you to these vehicles, especially if you've driven one. You can't get it out of your head, and you're attached to it and you want one. So just wanted to explain that desirability in this video, and why the draw to W124 is so much. Now on top of that, you get a wonderful, large steering wheel, and something that I must admit is my favorite feature of these vehicles of this era of Mercedes-Benz, and that is the gauge cluster. The fact, the gauge cluster that looks like you're in a jet, the gauge cluster with the little yellow lines, the accents, the red marks, the writings, it's just fantastic. Perfect for me. You feel like a pilot, you feel like you are in a cockpit, and you feel like you are steering a proper device, a proper machine, a ship. And Mercedes-Benz is almost not driven, it's almost chauffeured, because that's the kind of relaxation point it puts you on. It puts you in, I should say. I'm 6'1". Sometimes in the Land Cruisers I do feel like my legs almost are touching the dashboard, or I'm a bit of a larger guy, and it's surprising that in a Mercedes-Benz E-Class I have all the space I need. I have the headroom, lots of it. I've got space for my legs, I'm not hitting anything. I'm sitting laid back, so it's not a tiring drive at all. In fact, it's the most relaxing drive. And I genuinely tend to gravitate towards this vehicle when I just want a comfortable day, a comfortable ride, and when I want to actually enjoy my journey. And as I get older, I kind of see that as you get older, it's not just as easy to just jump in any car and go places. As you get older, you kind of want the most comfortable car. You kind of want the one that gets you to point A, from point A to point B with the least amount of fluff, with the most comfortable ride, and with something that actually stirs your emotions, stirs your heart, keeps you engaged. You look forward to it. Like after a day of work, I just look forward to getting back into my Mercedes, shifting gears and driving home. And as you get older, you appreciate these little aspects of life and you cherish them. And I really think that's what a vehicle like this puts you in, that kind of place to really enjoy your vehicle, your passion for vehicles, and really appreciate, almost like a time capsule, really get transported into the 90s. When I put some 90s tunes on this little finicky radio I have here, I really am transported into the 90s. It's a totally different experience, because this car is just a timeless classic, and there's really no other way to put it. So I hope you enjoyed this excerpt of mine today, just kind of getting into the draw of the Mercedes W124, the love and the emotion towards this generation of Mercedes-Benz, because they just stirred so much emotion, so much heart was involved when you drove these vehicles. You really needed to know how to captain the ship. This Mercedes-Benz, this W124 is not something where I can just hand over the keys to anyone and be like, all right, hey, you want to drive the car, or hey, you want to move my car from me in a parking spot. I can't do that. This is a car that requires a driver, requires someone who has the skills to operate it, to operate this machinery, and to operate it well. This is not a car where I want someone to get in and shift gears harshly and that kind of thing. You have to pilot it properly. You have to shift gears smoothly. You have to time your shift so you feel like you're doing right by the car. You're doing right by this wonderful legend, this Mercedes-Benz W124. It deserves to be captained and driven well. And that's just the allure of this vehicle. It's just that fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If some of you are out there considering a classic, or have been waiting to pull the trigger, and you watch this video and it just pushes you over the edge and you're ready to make that purchase, hey, I would never suggest someone away from this era of Mercedes-Benz, or just in general 90s vehicles, so nicely built. Now I know they're not for everyone, and I know there are people who do disagree with me. There'll be people out there who are like, hell, MasaiGainz, what are you talking about? You're driving an old vehicle. It looks old, feels old, and that's just not our cup of tea. You know, we need screens, we need that modern look and feel, and so it's not for everyone. But hey, for me, this is the perfect sedan. This is the perfect car you can buy, and I say touch wood that it's been okay. And I am actually going to go in the next episode on a quick update of everything I've done to this vehicle, where we've reached, what we may need to do in the future, and just how it's going. So anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment down below. Those of you who've been supporting House of Gear, from my heart, thank you. I do appreciate it so much. And let's keep moving. Try and get out a few more videos on W124. I know I have been busy, but I am interested now in getting back to the videos, the video production, and I am missing it a bit. So missed talking to the camera and just sharing that passion for the vehicles. It really helps keep that passion alive and moving, especially as you get older and you get financial commitments and you get stress in your life, and suddenly some of these things start to go out the window, because nothing like financial stress to just kill every hobby of yours. But we're doing our best with vehicles like this to keep it going. And if you enjoyed, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's MasaiGainz checking out.